Hello, welcome to HIS 332, History of Latinas and Latinos in the United States. During this first unit, you are asked to complete an assigned reading from your textbook entitled Our America. You're asked to read Chapter 1, and Chapter 1 is entitled The Fountain of Youth, the First Colonies in What Was to Be the United States, 1505 to 1763. One interesting note about American history is that if you look at traditional histories of the United States, they often begin with the British North American colonies on the East Coast and then tell a tale of Western expansion. So oftentimes, in looking at traditional histories of the United States, you'll see a discussion of the Puritans settling in New England, and perhaps of the English settlement at Jamestown in 1607. Oftentimes, the English settlement at Jamestown is referred to as the first European settlement in what was to become the United States. However, this narrative is not accurate or not complete. Jamestown was not the first European settlement in what was to become the United States. Settlements were established over approximately a century earlier in Puerto Rico, as well as St. Augustine, Florida. So Spanish settlements were actually the first settlements in what would become the United States, not English settlements. And if we take a broader view of history and a more inclusive and accurate view of history, we see that Spain played a crucial role in the settlement and development of areas that would become the United States. So one of the things that we're seeking to do in this course is to reimagine or re-envision American history, not to focus solely on the British North American colonies, but to examine how Spanish settlements and Latinos, Latinas, and Hispanics have played a crucial role in the development of this nation from its very beginning. So that is really emphasized in this first chapter of your text. You are asked to complete a discussion board assignment for week 1. And the discussion board assignment asks you to examine the origins of the terms Hispanic, Latina, and Latino, and to discuss the significance of these terms and which you find to be more appropriate for use. You are also asked to watch a documentary film for the first week of this course. And the documentary film is a PBS documentary, and it's entitled Latino Americans Episode 1, Foreigners in Their Own Land. And this film also emphasizes the long history, legacy, and tradition of Latino or Latina Hispanic settlement in what would be the United States. Areas that were conquered by the United States in the 19th century had been settled for centuries earlier as Spanish colonies. And oftentimes, as these territories were integrated into the United States, Latinos, Hispanics, whose families had lived in the areas for centuries, found themselves regarded as defined strangely as foreigners in their own homeland. And it was not uncommon for Latinas, Latinos, Hispanics to face discrimination in territories in which their families had settled for many generations. So there was a perception from Anglo-American settlers that this territory belonged to them, but in reality, Hispanics, Latinas, and Latinos had been residing in these areas, living in these areas, had viewed these areas were their homes for a very long period of time. So what I want to emphasize in the first week of this course is this reimagining or re-envisioning of United States history to de-emphasize the traditional narrative which has placed Anglo-Americans at the center, and to examine the fact that Latinas, Latinos, and Hispanics were part of the American narrative and story from the very beginning of the nation, and were only defined by Anglo-Americans and outsiders as foreigners, that this was a great historical inaccuracy to view these individuals somehow as foreigners in their own land. I hope that you'll find it to be an interesting unit. I look forward to working with you. Remember, you do have a few assignments: the textbook reading, viewing the film, the discussion board, and also writing up a commentary on the documentary film that you will be viewing. If you have any questions or concerns during the week, please feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to working with you.